Summary of Désirée'S Baby by Chopin. Madame Valmont goes from her home on a Louisiana estate to the plantation next door to see her daughter Desiree, who just got married. Desiree has just had her first baby, and Madame Valmont thinks back to when she first held Desiree when she was a baby. Monsieur Valmont found Desiree as a baby. She had been left in the shadow of the stone pillar at the plantation's gate. The Valmonts took the girl in as their own child, and Madame Valmont thought she was sent to her by God because she couldn't have children of her own. 18 years later, Desiree was standing near the same stone pillar where her foster father found her. Armand Bigny, the young heir of the nearby plantation Labrie, rode by on his horse and fell in love with her at first sight. Armand fell quickly and deeply in love with Desiree, and even though Monsieur Valmont warned him about her strange past, nothing could make him give her up. Armand sent Desiree gifts and nice clothes from Paris, and they got married. Madame Valmont arrives at Labrie for her visit. She feels scared of the farmhouse, which has a low roof and is hidden in the shadows by big oak trees. Compared to when his father ran it, Armand Bigny is very strict with the farm, which has made it worse. She goes inside to meet her daughter and her baby grandson, who are sitting on a couch wearing soft muslin and lace. Madame Valmont says this is not the baby when she sees the child. Desiree is amazed at how much the child has grown and changed in just a few weeks. She says he cries so loudly that Armand can hear him in La Blanche's house, which is a long way away. Madame Valmont carefully looks at the child and then asks her daughter, "What does your father say about the child?" Armand is very happy and very proud, according to Desiree. She tells her mother that Armand hasn't punished any of his slaves since their baby was born, like he used to. He even made fun of a slave who pretended to be hurt to get out of working. Armand's personality has changed since he got married and had a child. Desiree loves him no matter how angry or sad he is. After a few weeks, Desiree wakes up one morning feeling scared and worried, as if her happiness and peace are about to end. Strange things start to happen. Neighbors show up without saying why, the slaves seem to know something, and Armand becomes more distant and angry. He doesn't look at Desiree in the eyes, and he stays away from home as much as possible. He goes back to being cruel to his slaves. One afternoon, Desiree sits in her room and watches as one of La Blanche's boys, holding a peacock feather, fans her baby with it. Suddenly, Desiree looks from the boy to her child and yells, "Ah!" Her blood seems to stop flowing, and she starts to sweat coldly. Desiree sends La Blanche's boy out of the room and looks at her baby with fear in her eyes. When Armand walks in, Desiree tells him to look at their baby. "What does it all mean?" she asks. Armand answers coldly, "It means that the child is not white and that you are not white." Desiree screams that this is a lie and points out that the skin on her hand is even whiter than Armand's. Armand replies, "As white as La Blanche's." Desiree writes to her mother to tell her what has happened and how sad she is. Her mother tells her to come home with her child because she loves her daughter. Desiree takes the letter from her mother to Armand's office and gives it to him. He does not talk. She asks him if she should go back to her house, and he says that she should. Armand thinks that God is punishing him unfairly by giving him this child, so he hits his wife as if he were fighting God. He no longer loves his wife because she has brought shame into his home and to his name. Desiree goes away because she hopes Armand will ask her to stay. She tells Armand goodbye, but he doesn't answer. Desiree finds her child with Zandrine, the nurse. She goes outside with her child in her arms. The slaves are gathering cotton in October. Desiree walks across an empty field in thin clothes and shoes. She goes into the swamp and is never seen or heard from again. A few weeks later, Armand makes a big fire at Labrie to burn all of Desiree's things. He tells about a dozen of his slaves to move Desiree's things into the fire. Armand tells them to burn the nice clothes, hats, gloves, and other things he bought for Desiree. He is about to throw his love letters from Desiree into the fire when he sees a letter from his mother to his father in the back of the same box. The letter thanks God for her loving husband and for the fact that her son doesn't know that his mother is part of the race cursed with the brand of slavery.
About the author. Catherine O'Flaherty, who later became Kate Chopin, was born to an Irish father and a French mother. Her father was a respected businessman, and her mother was well known in the French neighborhood of St. Louis, Missouri, where Chopin grew up. Chopin was one of 5 kids, but he was the only one to grow up and become an adult. Chopin's father died in 1855, but she stayed close to her mother, grandmother, and great-grandmother. Chopin loved to read from a young age, and the fact that she loved poetry, fairy tales, and religion stories showed how much she loved books. She got married when she was 20 and went to New Orleans with her husband, Oscar Chopin. The last of the couple's 6 kids was born when Kate was 28. She was a young mother, and the first few years of her adult life were spent being married. Chopin's family moved to Louisiana's Cloutierville, a small town, after her children were born. This place gave Chopin a lot of ideas for her writing, especially because she learned about and became interested in Creole culture, which she wrote about in many of her stories. Oscar Chopin died in 1882. For 2 years, Kate tried to run his business, which was deeply in debt. After 2 years, she gave up and moved her family back to St. Louis to live with her mother. Unfortunately, Chopin's mother died a year later, and after these 2 deaths, Chopin became depressed. Chopin wrote as a way to calm down and make sense of her life. By the 1890s, she was writing and releasing a lot. She didn't get much praise during her life, but now that she's dead, she's getting more attention. People didn't pay much attention to her work because it used local ideas and images or because of how it portrayed women's roles. Most people didn't like her book The Awakening, which came out in 1899 and is now seen as an important early feminist work. Chopin died of a brain hemorrhage when he was 54 years old, in 1904.
Hope we summarized it fully and you liked it. Please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel so that we are motivated to create more videos.